Namaskar children. Today we will be talking about organ specific, tissue specific manifestations. In the previous videos we have learnt regarding the definition of health, then here its consequences, what is healthy, what is disease free, acute and chronic diseases, right. Then we have discussed about the means of spread. So today we will be completing the chapter. Please all of you concentrate. The disease causing microbes enter the body through these different means. Where do they go then? The body is very large when compared to the microbes. So there are many possible places, organs or tissues where they can go, right? So do all microbes go to the same tissue or organ, or do they go to different ones? Definitely different ones. Different species of microbes seem to have evolved to home in on different parts of body. In part, the selection is connected to their point of entry. That's very important. If they enter from the air via the nose, they are likely to go to the lungs. This is seen in the bacteria causing tuberculosis. But this need not always be the case. An infection like HIV that comes into the body via the sexual organs will spread to lymph nodes all over the body. Malaria causing microbes entering through a mosquito bite will go to the liver and then to the red blood cells, right? The signs and symptoms of a disease will thus depend on the tissues or organs which the microbe targets. If the liver is targeted, there will be jaundice. If the brain is the target, we will observe headache, vomiting, fits or unconsciousness. We can imagine what the symptoms and signs of an infection will be if we know the target tissue or organ and the functions which are carried out by that target organ. In addition to these tissue specific effects of infectious disease, there will be other common effects too. Most of these common effects depend on the fact that body's immune system is activated in response to infection. Please all of you underline this. An active immune system recruits many cells to the affected tissue to kill off the disease causing microbes, and this recruitment process is called inflammation. So what our immune system is going to do, as you know that we are having 5 types of WBC cells, white blood cells. So here neutrophils, eosinophils, basophils, lymphocytes and monocytes. So these all are very specific and they are going to kill the antigens depending on the infection. So what our immune system is going to do, it is going to do recruitment. You know what is recruitment? Whenever in the newspaper you see an ad, where they are asking about some qualification, that a person who is having so and so qualification, can apply for so and so job. So later on, the person will go for an interview, and then if the person is selected, that means the company has recruited the person, right? And now he or she will be appointed. So in the same way here, depending on the infection, our immune system is going to recruit the cells to kill off the disease causing microbes, and this process we are calling it as inflammation. This is a 2-mark question, children. As a part of this process, there are local effects such as swelling, pain and general effects such as fever. So we are going to experience general effects also, body ache, headache, these might be general effects, but along with that we are going to experience specific effects too. If we talk about HIV infection, right, the virus goes to the immune system and damages its function. Thus many of the effects of HIV AIDS are because of the body can no longer fight off the many minor infections that we face every day. Instead, every small cold can become pneumonia. A minor gut infection can produce major diarrhea with blood loss. Ultimately, it is these other infections that will kill the person suffering from HIV AIDS. Now, it is very important to understand, children, the severity of the disease, right? Severity and manifestations, if the number of microorganisms are more in the body, definitely infection is more and we are going to experience more symptoms, right? If the number of microbes is very small, the disease manifestations may be minor or unnoticed. But at the same time, if it is more, we are going to experience, it can be life threatening also. The immune system is a major factor that determines the number of microbes surviving in the body. Okay. See, as we have discussed in the previous slide, the disease causing microbes enter the body by different means and goes to different organs and tissues. As you know that the microbes, they have a fixed target site. They know what is the point of entry, right? They will not be choosing here, okay, that today I'll be entering from this side, today I'll be targeting this organ. It's not so. They are very specific and they know how to enter, and their target organ is also fixed. Microbes which enters through the nose are likely to go to the lungs. bacteria which cause tuberculosis of lungs. Microbes which enter through the mouth are likely to stay in the gut. Bacteria which causes typhoid, or liver, bacteria which causes jaundice. Virus which causes AIDS enter the body through sexual contact, through sexual organs, and spreads through the lymph to all parts of the body and damages the immune system. Viruses which cause Japanese encephalitis, brain fever, enters the body through mosquito bite and goes and infects the brain. I asked you a question in the previous class. Just tell me now, what is blood-brain barrier? Okay. Let's move on to the second last topic, that is principles of treatment. Once we get the disease, right, what are the steps taken by your family when you fall sick? Have you ever thought why you sometimes feel better if you sleep for some time? When does the treatment involve medicines? Right? Based on what we have learned so far, it would appear that there are two ways to treat an infectious disease. Which is the first one? The first one here is to reduce the effects of the disease. When we go and see a doctor, right, the doctor is going to prescribe us certain medicines. Next day here, if we feel better, that means, the medicine has hit the target, right? That means here slowly we will be better. That means here the disease, whichever disease we were having, has been caught, right? And second here it will be what? To kill the microbes. After reducing the symptoms, the microbes should be killed or they should stop multiplying, right? So these are the two ways here that will involve the treatment. The symptoms, for the first we can provide treatment that will reduce. So we have, general symptoms. So first we have to ensure that the symptoms are reduced. For example, we take medicines that bring down fever, reduce pain or loose motions. We can take bed rest so that we can conserve our energy, and this will enable us to have more of it available to focus on healing. But this kind of symptom directed treatment by itself will not make the infective microbe go away. We need to kill the microbe also, right? So how do we kill the microbes? One way is to use medicines that kill microbes. We have seen earlier that microbes can be classified into different categories: viruses, bacteria, fungi or protozoa. And each of these groups of organisms will have some essential biochemical life process which is peculiar to that group and not shared with the other groups. These processes may be pathways for the synthesis of new substances or respirations. And these pathways will not be used by us either. For example, our cells may make new substances by a mechanism which is different from that used by bacteria. This is how the medicine, the antibiotic, will be able to block the biochemical pathway which should not be shared by us. We have to find a drug that blocks the bacterial synthesis pathway without affecting our own, right? One reason. Now next point here is that why it is so difficult to make vaccine against or medicines against viruses. Because bacterial medicine is that viruses have few biochemical mechanisms of their own. I told in the previous class, viruses are using 10% of their own machinery, 90% they are using host machinery. They enter our cells and use our machinery for their life processes. This means that there are relatively few virus specific targets to aim at. Despite this limitation, there are now effective antiviral drugs, for example, the drugs that keep HIV infection under control. I hope you've understood. If you have doubt, please ask me. This slide also here, it is shown to reduce the effects of the disease. This can be done by taking medicines to bring down the effects of the disease like fever, pain or loose motions, etc., and by taking bed rest to conserve our energy. Second point here is to kill the microbes. This can be done by taking suitable antibiotics and drugs which will kill the microbe and the disease will be cured. Principles of prevention. There are two ways of prevention of infectious diseases. They are general ways and specific ways. Regarding it, we will study in the next slide. Now the last topic here is principles of prevention. It's better, prevention is always better than cure. So we should ensure that we are trying to prevent the disease as much as we can. Now what are the ways? There are two ways by which we can prevent infection, spread of infectious disease. They are general ways and the specific ways. Now what are the general ways of prevention? Public hygiene is most important for prevention of infectious diseases. Proper and sufficient food for everyone will make people healthy to resist infection. Airborne diseases can be prevented by living in conditions that are not crowded. Waterborne diseases can be prevented by providing safe drinking water, and vector-borne diseases can be prevented by providing clean environment. So we have to ensure that we are following all these steps. Now, what are the specific ways of prevention? The specific ways to prevent infectious diseases is immunization by taking vaccines. Vaccines provide immunity from infectious diseases like tetanus, diphtheria, whooping cough, measles, polio, etc. Our body has an immune system which fights microbial infection. When this system first sees an infectious microbe, it kills the microbe and remembers it. See what they are trying to convey here. How does a vaccine work? In vaccine, we take dead or weakened antigens or disease causing microbes. They will be, injected in the body, and then here at that time the body is going to find out first of all regarding the infection, and then body is going to attack those dead or weak antigens. After that, here the lymphocytes are going to remember, right? The memory cells will be created, and these lymphocytes are going to remember how to kill the antigen, right? See, it is not so that if they are making antibodies, so once one antibody, one type of antibody is made and that will fix with the antigen, that is not possible, right? So they may try with A antibody, B antibody, C antibody, suppose, right? So here they will remember, okay, these are trial and error methods. So this is how they will remember, okay, now with this particular antigen is going to be, is going to killed by the antibody D. So this antibody D structure here, they will remember, memory cells will remember, because they will keep on circulating in the blood. So again, if the healthy antigen enters our body, then instead of sending A, B, C, they will directly send D antibody to kill the antigen. Okay. So if microbe enters the body the next time, it responds more vigorously. Vaccines mimic the infectious microbe and strengthens our immune system and protects the body from infectious diseases. So in this slide here they have given clearly, where you can see general ways of prevention. Public hygiene is most important for prevention of infectious diseases. Proper and sufficient food for everyone will make people healthy to resist infection. Airborne diseases can be prevented by living in conditions that are not crowded. Waterborne diseases can be prevented by providing safe drinking water, right? And waterborne diseases here means we have to ensure that we are drinking clean water. So government should provide water, clean water to every person. Vector-borne diseases can be prevented by providing clean environment. We have to ensure that there is no stagnant water. In stagnant water only mosquito breeding takes place, right? Again, in a better way, specific ways of prevention. The specific ways to prevent infectious diseases is immunization by taking vaccines. Vaccines provide immunity from infectious diseases like tetanus, diphtheria, whooping cough, measles, polio, etc. Now again, a body has an immune system which fights microbial infection. When this system first sees an infectious microbe, it kills the microbe and remembers it. So if the microbe enters the body the next time, it responds more vigorously. Vaccines mimic the infectious microbe and strengthens our immune system and protects the body from infectious diseases. So I hope you have understood, you should remember these points. What are principles of prevention, what are principles of immunization, what are principles of treatment. So remember these ways, and here if it is asked in the exam, please write well. So we can see, children, now that as a general principle we can fool the immune system into developing a memory for a particular infection by putting something that mimics the microbe we want to vaccinate against into the body. This does not actually cause the disease, but this would prevent any subsequent exposure to the infecting microbe from turning into actual disease. Now many such vaccines are now available for preventing a whole range of infectious diseases and provide a disease specific means of prevention. These are vaccines against tetanus, as I have read in the previous slide, right. So these form the public health program of childhood immunization for preventing infectious diseases. You can check your health card also, you can ask your parents that you got vaccinated with which all vaccines you have, immunity of which all diseases, you can find out from your parents. Some hepatitis viruses which cause jaundice are transmitted through water. There is a vaccine for one of them, hepatitis A, in the market. But as you know, majority of the children in many parts of India are already immune to hepatitis A by the time they are 5 years old. This is because they are exposed to the virus through water, right. So under these circumstances, would you take the vaccine? It's no need, because it's already we have become immunized, so no need to take the vaccine. Now I'll just read for you. We'll read this immunization. Traditional Indian and Chinese medical, just all of you focus on the orange box, sometimes deliberately rubbed the skin crust from smallpox victims into the skin of healthy people. They thus hoped to induce a mild form of smallpox that would create resistance against the disease. Famously, 2 centuries ago, an English physician named Edward Jenner realized that milkmaids who had cowpox did not catch the smallpox. See, it was epidemic. Smallpox, was a disease. We were struggling a lot to get rid of it, but it was very difficult. So, at that time here, Edward Jenner found that milkmaids were also having a disease similar to smallpox, but a milder one, that's cowpox, and that was there in the rearers only, those who were taking care of the animals. Cowpox is a very mild disease, so Edward Jenner tried deliberately giving cowpox to people, as he can be seen doing in the picture, and found that they were now resistant to smallpox. This was because the smallpox virus is closely related to the cowpox virus. Cow is vecca in Latin and cowpox is vaccinia. From these two roots, the word vaccination has come into our usage. So I hope children you have understood. Let us discuss the exercise questions now.